I'm very pleased to announce our next speaker. Bertrand is an amazing dude. I think sustainability is near and dear to me, and the fact that he's running things means stuff's going to happen. I mean, Bertrand is someone that just drives year over year, decade over decade, I guess. He gets stuff done, he gets things delivered, and I'm very pleased to be able to hand the stage over to him.
Hello, everyone. In Cisco, I started 30 years ago, and when I started at Cisco, my manager asked me to push something called BGP, and that's what I did first. And then a few years back, I did the same for segment routing. And now, since this year, my boss told me, you're going to take care of sustainability because we believe that will be the next big things, and I believe that too. And I'm going to share you my view. Basically, why sustainability? Why it matters? To save the planet, yes, but that's a little bit simple. Because if I go back to my engineering and say, please save the planet, he's going to say, no, I have to build a feature for Google first, or for Deutsche Telekom first. No, it doesn't work that way. To reduce the energy cost. Oh, that become more interesting because we have seen the energy cost changing a lot since 1 year, and that will continue. To get access to get access to funding. I mean, what I'm seeing more and more is that enterprise will not get money to the bank unless the project is some kind of green today. You will not get, enterprise will not get the money from the bank if it's not green anymore. And that's a very big important point, specifically in Europe. What we are seeing, monitoring RFQ, RFP, we are seeing that the sustainability become a big part of the RFP. And it's even bigger if you talk about big enterprise or institution. I mean, what we are seeing, it's program where governmental program where it's mandatory to become more green. And you even have program, global program, to basically drive that to the procurement program. Then it's not just to save the planet, it's become much more today. When you talk about sustainability, and when I first look at that one, I was thinking, oh, it's mostly about energy efficiency. And indeed, for us, for software engineer, for hardware engineer, it's a lot to do with energy saving. But not only. Not only. I think what I'm looking at Cisco now is also, could we extend the life of our product? Could we change the way we sell our product? Could we start a second-hand type of product as well? If a product, for example, product that could be sold to a service provider, in the future could be reused perhaps for an enterprise. And the new generation will go to the service provider, the second-hand generation to some enterprise perhaps, because they don't have the same needs, but with the same equipment or older equipment, stages, it could be used somewhere else. Material substances. More I'm digging into, I'm looking at, are there materials that are at risk for Cisco, but also for the planet? And I don't know if you know, but almost all phones, almost all networking equipment are using some chemical that are very unique. Packaging, end-of-life strategy, and product longevity. That is what sustainability is all about. It's a lot of different things. Let's start to focus more in the most important one, which is energy saving, and that's where I believe we can do most of progress. What can we do? Oh, we can make the router behaving better. This is at the router level, at the NOS network operating system level. We could also perhaps look at the network level. Could I optimize my network? Could I plan my network better to be more sustainable and to be more energy efficient? And also, could I change my process at the process level to make this more efficient as well? As an example, when we are deploying chassis, do we need to have all the power supply being up all the time? And what that means from an operation point of view, to not have them all power on all the time. Then, as you can see, you can act at different levels. At the router level, at the network level, and at the operator level. And it's not that we didn't start. I mean, we are starting. If you take, for example, the SR9K, and if you look at a LAN card, in almost all LAN cards, we are splitting the LAN card in what we call slices. And in this example, I got 5 different slices from 0 to 4. And basically, my hardware is divided in the sense that I can switch on and off some slides. And I can switch off and on in 2 modes, in admin sleep mode or into admin off mode. What that means? Admin sleep mode, I'm going to switch off some of the component, but not everything. Meaning that if I have to start the slides again, I will not disturb other slides. In admin off mode, I will have to do a full LAN card reload, and then I can disturb traffic on existing slides. Now, we did some tests, and for example, we tested that on 10 different LAN cards, and we can save up to 8 and 42% per slide if we are switching, if we saving the power on some slides. It's quite significant already. Indeed, and if you do an admin off mode, meaning that that's where you will have to do the full LAN card reload if you come back up, then you could save even more. Now, it all depends on your operation. It depends on how you're going to manage that. You could go to one mode to another one, but as you can see, we can save quite a lot of power if you switch off some slides. And of course, we're going to look at this for everything. I'm doing another investigation with engineering, and here I'm talking about the 8001, which is the new platform, but it's the same on almost every platform. I look at how much power saving I'm doing on an interface. And if you look at today, if the interface is admin up or up, we are consuming on those specific interface about 55 watts. If I switch off, or not switch off, admin down that LAN card, or that interface, excuse me, if I switch off that interface, as you can see, I'm consuming 32 watts, which is not what we want. We want to get close to 0 if it's possible. And the reason why we have been building our equipment this way, it's because for the past 10 years, all of our customers told us, when I do the admin down to admin up, I want this to happen in few milliseconds. And because of that, we have to preheat the optical and keep heating the optical even if it's not used. Now, I'm asking the engineer to come with a new mode that say, I want to get something called admin sleep, where I'm not longer preheating this optical. But then in that case, it will take few seconds to come back to admin up. And I believe that if that was not acceptable in 2010, this is mandatory in 2023. And this is the direction we are going to take, is to make sure our hardware become more and more efficient as well. And this doesn't require to buy new equipment. This requires us to build the software to allow you to do that. And we did the first investigation. It will take few seconds for admin sleep, and we will consume 1 watt. Then we can act at different levels. I mean, I was talking about the LAN card slides, I was talking about the interface, but we can act at the power supply unit. We can act at the NPU. I can change the clocking of the NPU. What is the impact? It's something we are looking with engineering. At the fabric, if I have a chassis with multiple fabric, could I switch off some of them if it's not used or it's not needed? At the LAN card, at the interface, and also one very interesting area, it's the integration between optical and IP. Because it's good to switch off the IP interface, but if you're still powering the optical, what is your saving? You need to, at some point, to switch both together. And I believe we're going to work more and more into address the hardware. We're also going, at the same time, we are looking at addressing this from a more generic network level point of view. And we are working with the Crosswork team, and they're going to talk to you a little bit more about it, to basically be able to collect those data, collect the environmental data, collect the topology, which is something we're already doing today, collect the traffic matrix, which is also something that we're doing today, and store this. Now, if I know that I have my network topology and the consumption of my network topology, I could look at and start to do some analysis. I can say, oh, in New York, my equipment is very efficient. In Brussels, maybe not. What is the reason for? Then I can start to do some automate analysis or manual analysis, but I can start to do some analysis. I can look at the traffic, I can look at the energy ratio, and then later on, I can start to optimize my network based on sustainability and specifically power saving. Now, in terms of what is our strategy, we are also integrating this type of idea into our planning tool, because the first step of every network is to plan your network, and planning your network with the constraint of sustainability and energy will be the right thing to do. In operation, because when your network is deployed, perhaps the planning has said something, but the reality is a little bit different. It will be good to optimize the network for sustainability, and that's why it will also be integrating Crosswork Network Controller. And then, if you look at even more further, it will be good to integrate that with your optical gears as well. Then, in terms of summary, where we're going, it's the following. First, we have a program to build new hardware, to build new chipsets, to build new equipment where sustainability is part of the program. I give you an example. On Silicon One, we have worked with the 7 nanometer technology, which make the silicon very tiny and very efficient from an energy point of view. And that's a starting point. But those kind of programs, to build a new chipset like that, takes years, 10 years, 15 years sometimes. Then we are working in addressing sustainability from a chipset point of view, from a platform point of view. I don't know if you are aware of the 80+ program, but Cisco has committed to be, at least in our BU, to always be titanium 80+ for all of our power supply. The 80+ program is basically a compliancy, non-mandatory compliancy program that some vendors are following, and we are following that one, and we want our power supply to be extremely efficient and to get to that level always. And that's unobvious, but but that has created a lot of change in our different hardware team, software team, to basically be able to reach that level. Then we also want to improve existing router, like I mentioned. UFC with the interface, we can switch off some interface, and we're going to be more power efficient in that area, and at the network level as well. Again, we're going to talk about capacity planning tools that we are developing. Sustainability will be part of it. Cisco Network Controller, where we're also going to collect all the data from the network. And when I say collect the data, yes, we will collect the power consumption of the node, of the link, but as well of the chipsets. I give you an example. You may want to turn on IPsec or MACsec in your network. It will be cool in the future to have a tool that tells you, what if I turn MACsec, what that means for my consumption? And that's the kind of problem we are going to try to resolve. And yep, and that's where we're going. I don't know if you have any question, but that's really, really the direction we are taking. Okay. And software automation will participate to the global sustainability, and this is very, very what I believe. I believe that we all have a role to play, and let's work together to get a better planet, to get more funding, to address what we need, and thank you.
You guys are disappointing me with the Slido questions. So I'm still stuck in the middle row. Anyone want to shout out a question or two for Bertrand? Question over here.
I would like to ask you, what do you think, where will it be to... Thank you. Where it will be more efficient to use this on the C devices, core, PE, since especially that's first question. And the second one is, if we are considering that we are monitoring ports, they're going up and down because they're not used, we will automatically generate SNMP traffic and so on, so on. I don't mean that it will affect the network or create congestions, but then you will have ports that will be always up, so you cannot use this. Thank you.
Yes. The first question was about, because I'm not sure I got it right.
Well, if we are not using a port on the CE device,
yes,
we suppose that that will be in non-working hour and so on, so that will be really effective for cost efficient. But if we are talking about PE routers, core routers, they have a lot of traffic, and the possibility that port is not up and is not used, so we can shut it down, I think it's very little, right?
It all depends. It all depends. I mean, as you can see, today on ASR 9K, when people are deploying ASR 9K, all the slides are up, even if there is no cable connected. Then that's one case. There are some other cases where, and you will see later with the different presentation, where we could say, oh, but let's perhaps switch off some of the link during off-peak hour. And if we switch off during off-peak hour, but you're saving it from 50 watt to 32 watt, the benefit is nothing. You really want to reduce that to 1 watt. Then there are cases where it's all depend of use case, indeed.
So if you suggest that we have an aggregated port and that the traffic is less than one physical port in that aggregated link, we switch off all the other three?
It depends of use case. It depends of your operation, because you could not switch off without thinking of the rest. I mean, you have to meet SLA for your end customer. You have to be careful because if you switch off, for example, link of a bundle, and you're not allowing the backup path to be safe, that's not good neither. Or if you switch off your link and doing maintenance in another area of the network, you may have a problem too. That's why I strongly believe that has to be decided by the centralized tool, and that's why we incorporate that. We are incorporating that in CNC in the future. Because to me, CNC, at least in our portfolio, CNC will be the tool that allow you to optimize your network, not just for sustainability, but for everything, but also allow you to do in the future plant maintenance, allow you to do a lot of different things. And sustainability or doing something, action on your network with the sustainability constraint should be part of the same tool.
Merci beaucoup.
You're welcome.
So Bertrand, we have another good question, which is always, the reality. As you're having conversations with customers and other organizations, are they willing to make trade-offs for sustainability? We know in IT there's no free lunch. So are they willing to make trade-offs, and B, what kind of trade-offs are you starting to see?
What I'm seeing right now with discussion with customer, most of customers would like to understand what's going on right now. I think the first step that we are seeing from everybody, it's I don't know what I'm consuming. I don't know where I'm consuming. I don't know how things is going. Could you help me to collect the data from the network and be able to at least help me to build a dashboard? This way I can go to the next step.
Okay, so first step is really visibility before
exactly.
taking any action. Okay, that makes sense. So is there a relationship between sustainability and, I guess, resiliency of the infrastructure? I think that's what that question is asking. If we're constantly cycling ports up and down, does that impact longevity of the equipment and those kinds of things? Or are we too early to know that?
No, that is something we are analyzing as part of our engineering work. We are looking at if we go from admin down to admin sleep mode, if that changed the MTBF of the LAN card and the equipment. That is something we're doing, and we have seen no difference up to now.
Okay, well, that's good to know. I think the last question is about the fact that customers are turning off. We have some folks that turn off PoE ports when customers aren't around. I think you kind of touched on this. Is like turning the ports off administratively is great. The off state maybe isn't necessarily as great as it could be, and that's where we're spending time. Is to, if you turn it off, it really should go down to maybe 1 watt or some portion of a watt instead of, lower is better, but we're not done yet.
Yes, we'd say, and in this area, you really have to test everything to make sure of what we do and you're saving, because you could have your instinct of engineer to say, oh, I'm going to do this action, but when you look at and you measure this, it's not what you expect, or it's not. And really, my feedback of starting these works was, initially I have tons of idea, but more and more I'm digging into, more and more I'm seeing that everything has to be tested, validated, and then automate.
Yep, I think that's a good process for anyone. And I think you'll see that later, in some of these subsequent sessions, as with Orange, with DT, kind of working through that exact process.
Yep.
So thank you for your time here. So I hope from this everyone gets an idea of what the broader strategy looks like. It's a multifaceted strategy, and it's very thoughtful, right? This is not a marketing exercise. This is a fundamental rethink of engineering and product strategy and those kinds of things. So let's dig a little deeper. I promised details, so I'm going to hand the stage over to Soumya, who is going to get into some of the practical things we can do from an automation perspective and the like around sustainability.
Thank you.